Hi, this is Julian Rao, Independent Senior Sales Director with Mary Kay. This is session 1 of Pink Bootcamp on booking and coaching. So I'm going to be looking at my notes a little bit because I want to make sure that I cover everything. So if you're watching this, you need to make sure that you've printed out the Pink Bootcamp workbook, which is located on my website. If you go to the website and you type in the password, you'll see a tab on the right side that says Pink Bootcamp. So click on that, and then you'll see the PDF of the workbook. So make sure that you have that printed out next to you as you're watching this so that you can take notes and follow along, because there's some sheets that are in your workbook that I'm going to reference. And you can have it printed out in black and white or color, either way, your choice. So the first thing I want to talk about is just the mindset of booking. And what I mean by the mindset is that I don't think that people or that consultants don't book because they just don't want to. I think that they don't book because they haven't created that habit and they haven't gotten the mindset of what booking is going to do for them in the long run. And I'll be the first one to say, and I'm sure that a lot of other directors would agree, even national sales directors would agree, that, booking is not my favorite thing. I don't think there's anybody that just absolutely loves and is just so excited to sit down for 30 minutes or 3 hours or whatever it is to make phone calls. I don't think anybody is just elated to do that. However, you have to get yourself pumped up to do it. And the way that I get myself pumped up to do it is because I think about what that booking is going to bring me. And I know that it's going to bring me not only new customers and sales, which is quick cash for me and quick cash for you, but it's also going to bring me my next new team member. It's going to be my next offspring sales director. So when I start thinking about it that way, and I think about, okay, no, I don't really want to sit down and book right now, but I know that if I don't, I'm not going to have the activity that I need to fulfill the goals and the vision that I have for my business. And when I start thinking about that, then I'm like, oh, okay, well, I need to sit down and do this. So once you're in that mindset, I think it's a lot easier to make it a habit, but it's just a behavior, it's a habit. And once you start doing it, you're going to become so much more comfortable with it, and it's just going to become a habit like anything else, like brushing your teeth. So when I also talk about the mindset, I also want consultants to know that it's okay to hear the word no. In fact, it's a requirement. You have to hear the word no in order to get the yeses. So there's actually a sheet in your workbook that says get 100 no's. And I think that once a consultant makes that shift to not being scared to hear no, but excited to hear no, that so she can check off the box on that sheet, I think it just does wonders to your business. So it sounds a little bit silly, but get 100 no's as quickly as possible, because what that means is you're also going to get yeses. If we say that, for me at least, my averages are 1 in 5. So meaning that if I have 100 leads, 100 people that I'm going to call, I know that I'm going to book about 20 of them. And the other 80 are either going to say no, or not right now, or they're not going to respond. So if that means to get 100 no's means that you would have gotten about like 30 yeses. So that's pretty cool. So if you are like me, I love to check things off a list. I think everybody loves to check boxes. It makes you feel good. It makes you feel like you completed something. So when I was a brand new consultant, when I was making my booking calls, I had my list of people that I was going to call. Of course, I had my calendar. I had my coaching sheet, which I'm going to talk about in a little while. And I had my 100 no sheet, and it's like a bubble sheet in your workbook. And so every single time you hear a no, you can put a check. And that if you're once you get close to 100 no's, you should have about 30 yeses. You should have about 30 people that have booked with you. Of course, not all those people are going to hold, but you still got 30 yeses. So that's pretty cool. So get in that mindset of let's get 100 no's as quickly as possible, because if it takes you a year to get 100 no's, then it means it's also taken you a year to get to 30 yeses. And that's not going to be enough for probably anybody's goals, right? So get 100 no's as fast as possible. The next piece is going to be on creating your contact list. So if you're in my unit watching this, when a new consultant comes into my unit, everybody gets a welcome packet. And in your welcome packet is this contact list sheet, okay? So it has, I think, 50 spots, 50 places for you to write down people's names that you know. So there's a spot for you to write their name, their phone number, and how you know them. Is it your sister, your friend? Is it someone that you go to church with? Whatever. And what I really like about this sheet is that at the top it says, who should I talk to? And it gives you all these ideas. So of course, the first people to come to your mind are probably your friends and your family, people that you're the closest to. If I wrote down on that piece of paper as a new consultant the people that I was really close to, that I talked to on a regular basis, I might have had like 6 people on that list, and I would not be here today. Okay, but I really took this exercise seriously when I started making my contact list, and I really thought about all these different categories that you see on this sheet. So if you look on the sheet, it says neighbors, it says family, it says kids, teachers, coworkers, people that you went to school with, maybe in high school, maybe in college, maybe your master's degree, your friends, people that from church, maybe your spouse's friends and family, or boyfriend's friends and family, any clubs that you're a part of, and places that you give business. So don't forget about your doctor, your bank, a salon, a nail place, whatever. And so I didn't just write down people that I was the closest with, because quite frankly, and some of you may have already figured this out, the people that you are the closest with are the ones that are going to frustrate you the most, because they're close with you. They can say what they want to say to you. They know they can just get away with it. And of course, it's going to hurt your feelings. It's going to irritate you more because you're close with them. You have that relationship with them. Whereas when you're dealing with people that are more on that acquaintance level, you're not going to get your feelings hurt typically if they tell you no. But if it's someone that's really close to you, you might get your feelings hurt. I remember being very disappointed because my best friend from college was just pretty rude about it. She was like, no, granted, we're not really that great of friends anymore, and I think that was probably part of it. But she was not about it. And there were other things that happened later, but that was, that really hurt me, because of course I thought my best friend would be super excited, and I knew that she loved makeup and skincare, and she told me no. So it's okay. It's okay when people tell you no. But you really want to make sure that you sit down and carve out time to create that contact list, because like I said, acquaintances are really your best place. They're like your we call that your warm market, and they're really like the best place, because people that you're close with can really hurt your feelings and you get more emotional about it. Strangers, of course, you are going to start talking to strangers, but your acquaintances are the people that they know who you are, so there's enough of a tie there that they're likely to say yes. But if they say no, you're not going to get your feelings hurt, so it's a good in-between place to be. So, I sat down and made a list, and I really thought through every category of my life. And at the time, I was 22, so I thought through all the people that I had just graduated from college with, that I went to high school with, and I knew through growing up in church. I started thinking, I went through my husband's phone. We weren't married yet, but I went through his phone and people that he knew from work, from school, his family, etc. And I really had a pretty huge list. And it wasn't that all those people said yes, because they certainly did not, but it really just helped me get a good start. So make sure that you're taking that part seriously. Make that list and share it with your director and your recruiter. So you want to take a picture of it and send it to them, or email it or whatever, so that she has a copy too. And then that way she can help you go through and profile these people and get them booked for parties, get them booked for facials. Okay. So we kind of already talked a little bit about creating the booking habit. And I told you earlier that, for me, I just have to really think about what this is going to do for me in the long run. And so for me, as a new consultant, my goal was to create $1,000 a month. And I wanted that $1,000 a month so that I could move out of my parents' house and get my own apartment. And that was really important to me. So you have to sit down and think about, why did you come into Mary Kay? What is it that you're wanting to do? Is there a specific goal that you have in mind, like I did? Or is it more general, like you want to have extra money in savings or whatever? But even if you have a general goal like that, there's probably something that you want to save for. Or even if you just want to have extra money to spend on fun stuff, what would be that thing that you'd want to spend your money on? Like what one thing or one event or vacation would you want to do that you can't do right now? And once you just determine what that thing is, you need to write it on a Post-it note. You need to put it wherever you normally do your booking. Whether that's at your desk or in your car or at work or wherever. You need to write it down and put it somewhere so that when you don't feel like booking, you see that and it reminds you like, hey, no, I don't really feel like doing this, but the hour that I'm going to spend booking is going to be well worth it, in the long run. And so you have to get that piece done and figure out what it is and just put it everywhere. And then as far as creating the actual habit itself, you've got to determine when in your schedule do you want to book. And I think that's really what trips people up, is not only do they not have that goal in mind, but they don't have it scheduled on their calendar. You have to treat booking like you would an appointment. So I know for my calendar, even though this is a full-time career for me now, I don't have another job. When I started Mary Kay, I did have a full-time job. And so, for me personally, I prefer to book in big chunks of time. Like I would rather book twice a week for 3 hours each time than do like 30 minutes here, 30 minutes there. That's just not my style. But some people would rather pull all their eyelashes out than book for 3 hours twice a week. So you have to decide what's going to work best for you, what's going to work for your schedule. So for me, I book on Sunday evenings because that just seems to be a really good night to book. I don't love doing it on Sundays because I'd rather just chill all day. But I find that I get a lot of good bookings on Sunday nights because people are home. So I usually book from like 5:30 to 8:30 or 5 to 8 or something like that. And then I usually pick either Wednesday or Thursday night to book, one of those two nights. And it just varies because I have my success night in Winston on Monday, success night on Tuesday in Greensboro, and then Wednesday or Thursday, one of those nights I like to book, and the other one I'll hold facials or career chats or whatever. So, that's in my calendar. So every week, I know that I'm doing Sunday, and then every week I determine whether I'm going to do Wednesday or Thursday. And so it's set, it's there for me so that I know, my husband knows, it's not to bother me. He leaves me alone. If you have children, I don't have kids, but if you have kids, if you make that your non-negotiable and you figure that out, your kids will start to figure it out. Your husband will figure it out. If you take your business seriously and you have things set in place, then other people will follow suit. People aren't going to ask you to go here or go there, or do this or do that if they know that mom has her booking time on this night. And so when people do ask me, like in my family, like, can we come over and do this or do that? I tell them, no, I'm working that night. And no, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be in my office, but it's still something that's really important, because if I don't book, I'm not going to have appointments, meaning I'm not going to make any money. So it's really, really important. So treat it that way. And once you guys get in that habit, it's just going to be effortless. It's just going to be so routine, and you're going to be so used to it. So that leads me to like scripts, I guess we'll say. So in your workbook, there is a sheet that talks about just booking in general. And I've talked about it a little bit already, but the thing that I really want to hit home here is that 80% of your bookings are going to come from the 5th attempt or later. Okay, I'm going to say that again. 80% of your bookings are going to come from the 5th attempt or later, which means that only 20% of your bookings are going to come from the 1st or the 4th attempt that you've made. When I heard that statistic about 2 years ago, it floored me, okay? Because I realized how many people I had only called or texted a couple times and then didn't follow up with them again. I just discarded their name and didn't ever call them again. And that says that you're leaving money on the table. So I know that sometimes as a consultant and even as a sales director, we wonder, have I called her too many times? Am I bugging her? Am I sounding pushy? Blah, blah, blah. And so what I like about this program that I'm about to go over with you is that it really lays out for you what the structure should be, like what the follow-up structure should be. And so this is called the 21-day plan. I think it's called that because after 21 days of doing this, you're going to create the habit of doing it. But I like to just call it the follow-up program, like how you follow up and when you follow up. So if you look in your workbook, it goes over those statistics and talks about that. But then on the scripts page where it says booking scripts, it says what to say if she answers the phone, and then it goes over and says day 1 and you have a call and a text script, day 4 call and text script, and then day 7 call and text script. And so the entirety of this 21-day program is that you're calling these people 3 times, day 1, day 4, day 7, and you're texting them 3 times, day 1, day 4, day 7. And that, of course, is if they don't answer beforehand or don't, do something beforehand. So the idea is if you call somebody and they don't answer the phone, then you're going to leave a voicemail. And that is day 1. That is the first voicemail. And you can see in the script what it says. So you leave that initial voicemail, and then when they don't, if they don't respond, don't call you back, within, 24 hours, and the next day you're going to send a text, which is what it says. It says day 1 text. So you're getting a call and a text within, a day of each other. And then you're going to wait 3 days. I usually wait 3 days from the call. So if I were calling somebody today is Thursday, and today was day 1 for me, then Friday, Saturday, Sunday would be day 4. Okay, so in my case, since I usually book on Sundays and then let's just say Wednesdays, it may be an extra day in there, but it's okay. I just time it with when I'm booking. And that's part of why I have those 2 days spaced out the way that I do, so that I can do my next round the next time that I book. So then you go to day 4, and so if you hadn't heard anything from this person, if they hadn't booked with you, if they hadn't told you no thank you, or I guess those are really the only 2 options, then you would follow up with them on day 4. So then, let's just say on Sunday, I'd be making my day 4 phone call. Same thing again, I'm going to make the phone call. There's a script for day 4, what to say, and then I'll leave that voicemail if they don't answer, of course. And then the next day they get the day 4 text. All right, great. Let's just assume that they still haven't said anything. Usually by this point, most people have either said no thank you or they have booked with you. Okay, but there's still going to be that small group that hasn't said anything yet. And maybe that you have the wrong number, or maybe that they really just don't care and it's not a priority, but you're still going to follow through with this plan. You're going to go to day 7. So then if I were doing day 1 today on Thursday and then day 4 on Sunday, then day 7 would be on like Wednesday or Thursday. Okay, so then day 7 would be, there's another voicemail to leave, which is pretty simple. It basically just says, hey, I haven't heard from you. I hope that you've received my message. You would like to get together with me. I need you to give me a call back or text me back so we can set up a time. If you're not interested, that's perfectly fine. If I don't hear from you at all, I'll just assume that you're super busy and I'll hang on to your name and number and I'll call you back in a couple of months. Okay, click. And then the next day they get their last text, which is their day 7 text. And the call and the text for each day 1, day 4, day 7, pretty much mirror each other. It's just that the text is a little bit shorter than what the call, what the voicemail is going to be. And so then after day 7, if I have still not heard anything from them, and again, it's going to be a smaller group because you would have already weeded out people at this point and you would have already booked people at this point. But the people that are left, I do put them on my follow-up list for 2 months from now. So I'm recording this in January. So I just opened up my January follow-up list and I had about 60 people on that list. And so these are people that I initially called back in like September, October, November, usually most of them October and November. And I had said that I would give them a call back in a few months. And so these are a mixture of leads from people that I've met like at events that I've done, as well as referrals. In your case, as a brand new consultant, it's going to be people that are on your initial list that you made. And then of course, as you do start booking them and holding those appointments, then you're going to get referrals from those people and you're going to have those on that list too. Okay, so I didn't really do any events as a brand new consultant because I didn't need to, because I had this big list of people that I was working from and then I was working full circle. So you will too. But that's how it works. Day 1, day 4, day 7. You may be thinking that's a lot of attempts, Julianne. Well, it's not. It's 3 phone calls and 3 texts in about a 7 to 8 day period. And just professionally speaking, that is legit. That is acceptable, professional decorum, to call somebody that many times. If you think about your insurance agent or somebody like that calls you to follow up, they're not just going to call you one time. They're going to do it a couple times. So you want this was just really a great program for me when it came out, because I am someone that's very structured and very detailed and I like to follow the rules. And so I wanted to, it always was a struggle to me just to determine, how many times I should follow up with this person. And so I don't ever have to question or wonder. I just follow this plan. If somebody cancels, if I have somebody that cancels their appointment and they want to reschedule, then I pretty much just start the process all over again. That I keep them back on my leads list. Now in your Pink Boot Camp workbook, it tells you that you can have there's like a little sheet of paper that has room for you to write in all the people that you're going to call that day. Okay. So you can just have a list of people that you're going to call and you can write them all in. Now, for me personally, if I'm calling, 60, 70 people at one time in a 3-hour block, I don't want to have to write all those people down on a piece of paper and I don't want to have to then move them and write them on the next time that I'm going to be making my phone calls, if they didn't answer or didn't book with me. And so I like to keep all my leads, whether it's a referral or an event or whatever, I like to keep all those names and phone numbers in a spreadsheet that I use on my Google Drive. So I like Google Drive because I can access it on my phone, I can access it on my computer, my tablet, wherever, and it's all in the cloud. It's not on my computer or my tablet itself, like in Excel. So I like to use that. So if you're more of a digital kind of gal and you don't like paper either, then you can let me know and I'm happy to send you what mine looks like so you can structure yours the same way. But it basically has room for me to have a column that says like where these people came from. Like, was it a referral? And if so, who was the person who referred them? Or an event, or maybe like in your case, maybe just your initial list. And then you have room for their name and their phone number. And then I have like spaces for day 1 call, day 1 text, day 4 call, day 4 text, day 7 call, day 7 text. And I literally just key in, okay, this was my day 1 call to this person. So I left her a voicemail on, January 4th at blah, blah, blah time, and that may sound really tedious to you and you don't have to be that detailed if you don't want to be, but it helps me keep up with what my next step with this person is supposed to be. If I've already done a day 1 call, then obviously the next step is a day 4 call. And if I had to write all that down, I would not like that. So you can choose how you want to go about that. And if you have questions about that, of course, just let me know or let your director know. Okay, so I told you guys that in your workbook, you have the day 1, day 4, and day 7 scripts. I'm not going to read these scripts to you. You guys can read them. There is a whole section of what you would say to the people that you're calling that are on your initial list, like the people that you know. And then there's a whole list of, not a list, but a whole section of scripts for people that you're calling that are referrals. Okay, because typically as a brand new consultant, the only people that you're going to be calling are people on your initial list and referrals that you get. And then it's just going to continue. And then once you decide that you want to do an event or something else, then you can let me know and I can give you a script for that. But this is really just for new consultants. So I would look over the scripts and I would have them out when you're making your calls for a while until you get really comfortable with it. And that's another reason that you want to get in the habit of booking, because the more that you practice, the better you're going to get, the more comfortable you're going to be, and then you're not going to need to have the scripts in front of you. It's not going to feel as like shaky and awkward. I don't need a script anymore. I can just rattle stuff off, and because I just do it 6 hours a week. So I'm, pretty fluid at it. Not a big deal. But it's totally okay to have your scripts out while you're making those phone calls and having those texts. A tip for you would be to take the time to write in, get your phone out. And if you're, every phone nowadays has like some kind of note feature, a note app. And so I still have this. I have a note in my phone that has each day 1, day 4, day 7 text for referrals. So in your case, you'd probably want to have one that has the day 1, day 4, day 7 texts for people that you know, and then the same thing for the ones for referrals. And that way, when you're, sitting down to do your text to those people after the phone call the next day, then you can just copy and paste and just change the name. It makes it really, really easy. So your first goal as a brand new consultant is to focus on your power start. And so a power start is when you hold 30 faces or 8 parties in your first 30 days. A perfect start is when you hold 15 facials or 5 parties in your first 30 days. And so you can choose either one. But the purpose of this is really to help you get off to a great start, not just financially, but so that you can really practice this process of booking and coaching and holding the appointments and so on and so forth. And I really go over this in a lot of detail in my Launch Your Mary Kay Business video that's found on my website under the Welcome tab. So if you haven't watched that, you can totally watch that. And I go over in a lot more detail how we're launching your Mary Kay business. But with holding your power start or your perfect start in your first 30 days, you're really going to get good at booking. You're going to get way more comfortable with it, and then it's just going to become so effortless for you moving forward. So when it comes to booking, booking is great and it's important, and it's how you're going to continue to have bookings and appointments and things happening in your business. If you don't have bookings, you don't have a business, in my opinion. But if you're going to book, if you're going to take the time to book appointments, then you also need to be willing to take the time to coach them. So we're going to talk some about coaching as well. So coaching is basically just following up. So if you're watching this and you were somebody who came to a skincare class with me or another consultant or director, she coached you to show up at that skincare class. She probably texted you with the address. She probably texted you to ask you some questions about your skin type. She texted you to find out if you're bringing friends with you to your appointment. She texted you on the day of to confirm, and so on. And so that is coaching. And we're not the only ones who do this. Doctor's offices do this. I have a dentist appointment scheduled in a couple weeks, and they called me yesterday to confirm the appointment. That is coaching. They're making sure that I'm going to show up. And that's why when you go to the doctor, you go to the dentist, it takes you a little while usually, because they have more than one person booked in that same time slot, because they know that some people are just not going to show up or they're going to cancel at the last minute, and they don't want that doctor to just be sitting there not doing anything. And so that's why in our business, we also double book and triple book, because we know that things are going to happen and people are going to cancel. So what we say in Mary Kay, what the math is, it's not just what we say, but what the math is 50%. So what that means is if you book 50 people, we know that 25 of them are going to hold, and the other 25, things are going to happen. They might have all the intention in the world of being there at that appointment, but life is going to happen. Their child's going to get sick, or they're going to get sick, or they're going to have to go to work earlier and not be able to come, or someone in their family is going to pass away, or, snow is going to happen, or whatever the case is. And so that's just how it goes. So we don't get emotional about it, because if you know what the numbers are, there's no reason to. So it's the same thing with parties, not just with facials, but half is going to hold, half is going to cancel and or reschedule. So with that being said, I have a little coaching sheet that I use, and this is found in your Pink Bootcamp workbook. Looks like this. Okay. And so this is how I keep up with my bookings and how I keep up with what I need to do in the coaching process for each person. So I'm going to go over this in a little bit more detail than I probably have some of the other things. So there's a place for you to write down the person's name. So when I'm booking, I told you guys earlier that I have this sheet with me. I have my phone. I have my list of leads on my computer or my tablet in front of me. And I have my calendar. And that's it. That's all you need. And of course, I have a pencil. I usually write all this in pencil so that when things do cancel, it doesn't, it irritates me to see pen on my calendar. I don't know if anybody else is OCD like that. But on this little sheet, once they book with me, I write their name down, and then it has a place to write the date that we talked. So if I were calling somebody today and I booked her for whenever, I would write today's date right here because we talked today. And then it says the date and time of the appointment. So when I have her scheduled for. And then it says the location of the appointment. So for me, I work out of the Greensboro Studio Pink and the Winston-Salem Pink Spotlight Studio. So I just write down Winston, Greensboro. You can write down whatever you want. And then it says sent address. Okay, so when I'm on the phone and I'm booking people, I will tell them, one of the last things that I say in the script is I'll say, great, I have you down for, Monday, January the 8th at 6:30 p.m. I'm going to text you tomorrow with the address for the studio, and I'll also include the date and the time again so that you have it and you can make sure that you put it on your calendar. I'm intentionally texting her the next day and not that same day, because I don't know if you're like me, but there's been plenty of times when someone has asked me to do something and I have gone ahead and said yes, and then realized like 2 hours later that I had something else already scheduled, and then I've had to cancel it. So I intentionally wait about 12 hours to text them that for that reason. So that way, if anything's going to happen, a lot of times they'll go ahead and tell you. So, and it also just serves as a confirmation text. You want to touch people a few times between when you book them and when the appointment is held. And this is one of the reasons that I don't like to book people more than 2 weeks out, because I don't want to have to follow up with them a million times. If I book them a month away, I'm going to have to follow up with them several times to make sure that it's going to hold, and it's just a lot more work for me. So I know that if somebody can't, I tell people if we can't get a date set within the next 2 weeks or so, I'll just say, well, you know what, it's going to be easier if I just follow up with you, in 2 weeks or a week and a half, and we'll see what the next week looks like, and that way it's just easier for you and easier for them. So sent address, and then it says got skin type, because you're going to want to get their skin type information. It says reminder about friends. You got their friends, names and numbers, and then the night before text. And so these are just the different touch points that you got to work in somewhere. So sent address, skin type, reminder about friends, got their friends, and the night before text. That's 5 touch points. So if let's just say today is Thursday and I book somebody for next Wednesday, okay, then it's the way that you're going to do this, like the amount of space between each thing is going to be different depending on how much time you have between now and when the appointment is actually going to be. Okay, so this is where you have to use, some judgment and some common sense to figure out when you're going to do this. So, the sent address, I'm going to do, if I book her early in the day, then I might send it to her that night. But most of my booking is not done until the afternoon or the evening. So they get the text the next morning. Okay, so you would put tomorrow's date under sent address. And then, I put a check once I text that person. So that way it's checking it off that I did what I was supposed to do. And then once I get a response from her, then there's going to be another check. And that way I know that she's responded. Okay, and so I go ahead and kind of frame out when I'm going to do these different things, like the same day that I do the booking. Like once I can complete my booking for that day, I go through and make sure that everybody's on here that I just booked, so I don't miss anybody. And I go ahead and fill in, when the appointments are going to be and where, and then I figure out when all these things need to happen. Because what I don't want to have to do, the reason that I created this, is because I don't want to have to figure out every single day what needs to happen. I want it to already be on here, so all I have to do each day is just look at it and say, okay, where's today's date? And whichever ones are for today's date, I'm going to make sure that I get done today. Coaching maybe takes me like 10 minutes a day to do, okay, because you are going to be touching it every single day for the most part. It's just not going to take that long. And if I see that somebody did not respond to me, if I see that I checked the box because I texted her, but she didn't text me back, then I'm probably going to follow up with her and say, hey, I sent you a text yesterday. I didn't hear back from you. Want to make sure that you got the address. And you always want to end things with a question. If you end it with a question, they're more likely to respond. If you end it with just a statement with a period, sometimes they may just be like, okay, great, and they mentally check the box and they look at it, but they don't feel the need to respond. So if you want to elicit a response from them, which you do in all these cases, then you need to make sure that there's questions there. So the address, and then skin type, you have the list of questions to ask them about their skin type. When I was on the phone with them and was booking them, one of the things that it talks about in the workbook, in the scripts part, is when you're calling people to book them, you're not calling them and saying, let's book a party. You're booking them for a time and date that works for them and for you. And then you're going to upgrade them to bring friends with them. Okay. And so there's different ways to do that. But for the most part, it's just, hey, especially as a brand new consultant, you're just going to say, hey, okay, great. I have you down for this date and time. Now, you know that I have this goal of 30 faces, so if there's anybody that you would love to bring with you to share the appointment with you, it would also help me reach my goal, and you'll get, some extra gift or extra whatever you want to do, fill in the blank, for helping me out as a thank you. And so, of course, they're not going to know off the top of their head if their friends or family can come with them, but since you know them, you can kind of prompt them and say, well, I know that, your sister's in town. I know that your sister-in-law or your friend or whoever, if you know people in their life that are here that you'd kind of want to suggest, you can do that. And then you just say, well, you think about it and invite those people that you want to invite. And then I'll just need to know by blank whether they're coming or not, whether you have anybody coming or not. And so that's where on the sheet it says you got their friends. Okay, meaning you got their friends' names and numbers that are going to come with them, or, they tell you that they don't have anybody coming and it's just them, and that's okay too. And then, of course, the night before text would, of course, be the night before, the day before the appointment would be that date. That's an easy one. But the other ones you just sort of fill in when you can, whatever makes sense for how much time is between now and the appointment. If it's like 2 weeks out, then, of course, you're probably going to want to hit them with one of these things every 3 days or so to make sure that you get all of them. If it's in a tighter time frame, then it's going to be more frequent. You're going to talk to them almost every single day, and that's okay. Because you're not calling them, you're just texting them. It's just quick text. So coaching is super, super important. If you don't coach it, it's probably not going to hold. If you just book them on, day 1, and then the appointment is 10 days later and you don't talk to them until day 10, they probably forgot about it. They probably aren't planning on coming. It's very rare. So coaching is really, really, really important to your business. The last thing I'm going to just talk about very briefly is getting bookings from bookings. So a lot of people, ask the $1 million question is, how do I continue to get bookings? How do I continue to have people? How am I not going to run out of people? Well, this list of people that you're going to make that we talked about, okay, you're going to make this list and we're going to book from them. And then let's just say you have 50 people on a list. So if we're operating at a 20% booking ratio, then we know that about 10 of them are going to hold their appointment or book their appointment. Some of them are going to cancel, and your booking ratio might be a little bit higher than 20% with people that you know. I just know at this point for me, 5 years in, I'm working with people that are not, close friends and acquaintances for the most part. My booking ratio is at 20%. So with you, let's just say it was 30%, so out of 50, I don't know what 30% of that is, but it's more than 10, somewhere between 10 and 15. And then if half of them canceled, then you'd be left with let's say about 7. Okay, so if you had 7 people that booked with you, and of course some of them will bring friends and some of them won't, and it'll just average itself out. Some of those people are going to give you referrals, and so that's really, really important. That's why I have my very own customer profile sheet. It's on my website. It's part of what we have at our skincare classes, because there's 25 spots for referrals, and so that way people will give you usually anywhere from 5 to 10 to 20 to 25 referrals. I don't like the ones that the company gives you because there's only room for 10 referrals, and that's just not enough. So you're going to get referrals from these appointments, but that's also going to serve as a guest list for somebody's second appointment. Now we're going to talk a lot more about getting bookings from bookings in the skincare class basics video, which is the next one, section 2. But I want you guys to know that if you really work this business full circle, meaning you hold the appointment and do the facial with them, and then you get referrals and rebookings, and then you also book career chats, you're never going to have a problem continuing to have appointments because you've gotten referrals and you've gotten second appointments. Not everyone's going to give you referrals, and not everyone's going to book a second appointment, and it's okay. But let's just say that from 10 parties, let's just go with 8. Let's say you hold your 8 parties in your first month, you're doing the power start. And the idea is that from each party, you get at least 2 future bookings, that you get 2 second appointments. So 8 times 2 is 16. That means you now have 16 new appointments on your books. And we know that half of them are going to cancel. So that brings us back down to 8. That's pretty cool. That doesn't include any other facials that you book from referrals or from anybody else on your list that maybe didn't call you back or text you back beforehand. So if you just work this process, you're never going to have an empty date book, and you're always going to be full, and you're going to be happy, happy, happy. And you also must focus on the 3 focuses that you see on the front of booking and coaching. So it says to review your contact list with your director within 5 days of having your orientation. So make sure that you're going over your list with your director so that she can help you really think through these people, what the best course of action is going to be. You also want to attend your first success night for your new consultant pinning so that you can get pinned, and you want to bring somebody with you, like one of your best friends or your mom or somebody that you're close with, so they can see you get pinned, and of course they'll also get a facial. And then you want to begin practice booking so that you can get your first 8 parties booked or your first 30 faces. So I hope this was helpful, and I hope everyone is happy booking. I hope everybody has okay, so I hope everyone becomes a booking machine. I know that everyone is going to become a booking machine.